To the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presentations, MHS Student Advisory Committee. Who's up first?
So good evening, everybody. My name is Timothy Goliger, and I'm the representative from the sophomore class. I'm here to talk to you about Spirit Week at Marlborough High School. Spirit Week is a great way for students and faculty alike to show spirit and enthusiasm for the high school. This year, Spirit Week was kicked off by the homecoming dance, and it took place from the 24th to the 29th of October. Students were awarded Spirit points if they complied with the theme of the day. For example, Monday was Pajama Day, Tuesday was Character Day, Wednesday was Seasons Day, Thursday was Decades Day, and Friday was Class Color Day. This was the most cutthroat, but I'll get into that later. Students could also be awarded Spirit points by taking part in other events such as Penny Wars and Homeroom Trivia. On Friday, students came dressed in their class color. We had classes for half the day, and then the fun began. Clubs and classes alike came together and sold either merchandise or food to raise money for their organization. For example, Tri-M, the Music Honor Society at Marlborough High School, made around $150 by selling ramen noodles and Twizzlers. After those festivities were done, everybody gathered in the gym and participated in a pep rally, led by Mr. Westcott, who's the department head of math, the math department head at Marlborough High School. During the rally, the students got to enjoy events such as shows put on by sports teams and a teacher-student dodgeball tournament. This rally was described by my English teacher, who grew up in Britain, as the most American thing I've ever seen. I think that everybody at MHS should take that as a compliment. The last thing addressed at the pep rally was the rank of each class. The rank was determined by the amount of Spirit points that each class got. And again, you can get Spirit points by participating in the day and through Homeroom Trivia and Penny Wars. The final rank of the classes, the juniors came in 4th place, the freshmen in 3rd, the sophomores in 2nd, and the seniors in 1st. And yes, the sophomores are still holding a grudge about this, but it's not rigged. And I really think that the students and the faculty really came together and made this year's Spirit Week a big success. So does anybody have any questions?
Questions from the committee?
Okay.
We're off the hook.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you, Tim.
You too, Tim. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Heidi DePercio, and I'm a junior this year. And I just wanted to update you all on what our drama club has been doing. So for the past month and a half or so, we have been working on Dessert Theater, which is our fall performance. And what it is 3 one-act plays, all of which are student-directed. And this year we actually have one that is student-written. So it's a great opportunity for those students who want to explore theater after college or even just get to try it out. It's a really good opportunity for them to get a taste of it in not as big a scale as our musical. So we have 1-hour rehearsals for each play once a week on Thursday nights. And we just work through the blocking and everything and get to interact with those student directors. And then on the 18th and 19th of this month, we'll perform those. And that's where the dessert part of it comes in, because in between the 2nd and 3rd plays, everyone bakes desserts and we get to give those out to everyone. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way for the new freshmen to get a taste of what the drama club does, because this is less of commitment than our musical that we do in the spring. So it's a great way for everyone to get involved and get to see what our club does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Hi, I'm Samantha Merrill, and as a senior, I got to attend a program at our high school called Reality Fair. So last week, for about an hour, each student was called down. There was 3 separate ones, depending on what last name you have. And you get called down for about an hour to the library, and you go in, and previously you got to pick a profession that you wanted to be, and they organized paychecks and slid them into binders. And when you entered, you got your binder and you got a paycheck. So when you walk in, you hand the paycheck and you get Monopoly money, and you go around and you need to spend this wisely as if you were just getting out of college or anything like that. So you have to pay for housing, insurance, and transportation, everything that you might need. And it's a really good thing because seniors sometimes don't understand when they're going to college that if you need to be a good profession to afford things, that's a reality. You have to manage your money well, and a lot of seniors were saying they didn't know that they had to pay for all of these things, and it was a good reality check. Any questions?
Questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Susan, anything to add?
Oh, you got the.
No? What happened?
She's got the Trixie chair.
Oh. Thank you very much. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it should be noted that Alicia Beebe is not here for her portion of the report because she's playing in the the varsity girls soccer playoff game this evening. Before I begin, I'd like to make sure we give a warm welcome to Julie Purcell, who is the new secretary to the school committee. Administrative assistant. Welcome, Julie. Alice update, we've recently procured licenses for an online Alice training module that will be used not only to recertify administrators at the secondary level, but also to train elementary teachers in this new format. We met with Officers Torrio and DeCiro, and we determined that the afternoon, I'm sure Mrs. Murphy will talk about this, today's PD day, the elementary and ECC teachers went through an interactive training without students. Students will not be involved at that level. And a drill will be conducted on January 17th, which is our next full PD day, and that will also be without students. And of course, the goal is to bring the entire district to Alice Ready status as soon as possible. The interactive module was quite good. We all went through the training. It's a very, very good training, good refresher for all of us. So in the information handout, I included some information around attendance with some specific data for Marlborough, Framingham, Milford, Somerville, and Cambridge. And this came from a session run by the Middlesex Partnerships for Youth on the startling effects that poor attendance can have on children and correlation with dropout/graduation rate, even as early as kindergarten. So we sent Toby Peterson and Linda Perez to this session, and Toby walked us through an information session at one of our last leadership meetings. We have been able, through the use of salary reserve, to boost our 0.5 attendance officer to 1.0 FTE, and this is something that we've talked a lot about in our policy subcommittee meetings and around the principal table as a real need. And it's interesting to note, Cambridge has 9 FTEs working on truancy, Somerville has 8, and we now have 1. Again, can't underscore enough the need to make sure our students and our families, especially at the younger age, send their children to school because these habits are developed as early as kindergarten. And we really need to take a look at those chronically absent numbers as well as the absence more than 10 days. That's a lot of school to be missed.
Can I ask a question at this point, just before you move on to the next?
Surely.
A couple of questions. One, the FTE addition is the same staff person.
It is the same person.
Okay. Secondly, is there a common understanding in this data as to what constitutes an unexcused absence? Like, do all districts use the same criteria? Because, I mean, looking at these Framingham's an outlier. Are they defining it differently than the rest of us, or?
They may be defining it differently. This is according to the way we define it. This is coming from SIMS data. So this is the way, what we should be worried about is our own consistency across the schools. What is an unexcused absence, most specifically at the high school? How the others do it, I don't know. So you're saying, is this apples and oranges? It could be, but for our purposes, we're consistent, and that's what's important. Also in the packet, and this was more important for our discussion, strategies to improve attendance, and we highlighted a few of them in yellow that really speak to our district goals. We had a really interesting session with the principals, and this is an ongoing discussion because, again, while the teeth in the attendance really comes at the high school level with regard to credit or not credit, those habits are built very early in kindergarten. So it was a great discussion. I wanted you to see the data.
My other question was the yellow, the highlighted, that was stuff that you found
Yes.
to be more.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to bring back to you the state data on the test mode decision. You'll recall several months ago, you made the decision to vote with our recommendation for all computer-based testing for grades 3 through 8. The state is mandating only 4th and 8th grade, but I find it really interesting that 36% will do the full computer-based testing, and we're in that number. 38% will only do 4th and 8th grade. And they must not be ready with their infrastructure the way we are. And then 19 requested a waiver. 19 districts have said they aren't able even to do the 4 and 8 computer-based testing. So I just wanted you to see where we fall in that whole continuum. Also continuing with the accountability tests, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education voted unanimously on October 25th to implement a 10th grade Next Generation MCAS in spring of 2019. This is for the class of 2021. Members of that class are currently 8th graders, and they will take the Next Generation MCAS this year, so they'll have some practice with it before it counts for competency determination. So students in 2020 and prior classes will continue with the current model of the legacy 10th grade tests to meet their competency determination for graduation. STEM Summit has been an interesting and busy time for conferences. We were well represented at the STEM Summit. I took a picture and tweeted it out, but not even all of us fit in that picture. We were 18 strong from MPS, including school committee member Heidi Matthews, Mark Kerbel, Charlie Caleri, Brian Daniels, Tom Platty, the instructional technology specialist from Whitcomb School, Julie Baker, and 2 art teachers from Whitcomb, the 10th grade STEM team, our high school partnerships for a skilled workforce staff, and myself. The sessions were very, very informative with a heavy emphasis on pushing STEM into elementary schools. Some really good sessions that we attended around that topic. November 2nd through 4th, we gathered at the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents joint conference at the Cape. The theme of it was social and emotional learning and the impact of poverty on education. Mayor Vigent joined Catherine Hennessy, Heidi Matthews, Michelle Boden-Hedinger, Denise Ryan, Earl Geary, and Superintendent Grulich to attend sessions of interest and import on topics such as contracts, MIAA regulations, evaluation of the superintendent, transgender students, and social emotional themes. Again, the highlight, most of the keynote, including Jessica Minahan, who we've had in the district as well, around the theme of social emotional. At the superintendent business meeting that I attended, we talked a lot about the future of DDMs. Next year's focus for the Superintendents Association will be on school choice. I know that's something you're interested in, Mike. As well as the lack of backfill for the positions that are opening up around the state. Last year, there were 61 superintendents new to their positions, not necessarily new superintendents. This year, I'm hearing that there are 35 now open in the state. So to respond to this, the Superintendents Association has done a nice job of fostering leadership from within the ranks and inviting people, principals and other central office folks to assistant superintendent training cohorts. We have 2 folks in our district who are currently engaged in those cohorts. It's Mary Murphy and Dan Riley. And they're also offering some nice incentives for doctoral programs in leadership through BC and the like, realizing that they've got to build a strong cohort of fill to the retiring generation. And on the last page, I printed out for you some logos that we're toying with. Raina has worked with Jim Ash at the Main Street Journal. We have chosen, the second one there is the Panther Pride logo rather than the paw. We thought this was upgraded a little bit. We loved it, and it continues with that sleek panther look that we've come to know through our keychains and our statues. The first one, we've been thinking about how to redesign a logo for the website that we're working on, the new website. And this is a thought to put that panther in the background, so I'm interested to hear feedback. This is not cast in stone, just wanted to give you a chance to respond to some of these new logos. And that concludes my report.
Any questions on the superintendent's report? No. Executive Director's report.
Good evening. Is it on?
Oh, sorry.
We're just saying there's no questions because Catherine's not here.
But
I didn't say it.
I said it. I'll own it.
I do have some questions that were just sent to me, though, so make sure
Okay.
we get those in.
Yes, we have those.
we have those.
Yeah.
So included in my packet, I provided a lot of information about professional development. Today was Professional Development Day, and we've been doing a combination of structured professional development, but this morning was basically a choice morning for most staff members, including most of the paraprofessionals as well. There was a special presentation in this room for Teach Town, which was for the Pathways program and some of the adaptive resource rooms students. But other than that, most of the paraprofessionals and the behavior techs were able to sign up for Choice PD. Last year, we introduced the Teach Point for the teachers to sign up. This year, we introduced an email, pd@mps-edu.org, and that allowed for the paraprofessionals to sign up for specific workshops. We had 3 specially designed for them, but we also offered the opportunity, if there was openings, for them to sign up for some of the other ones that were open for the teachers. So we had some particular ones about teaching students of poverty that they could have signed up for, multicultural, a number of different. Google environment was very popular. And we're very pleased to also see in the mini course catalog that I also sent out attached to my report. It's a little earlier this year than we have had in the past. Last year we didn't do it till the winter-spring session. We purposely put it out earlier this year because I think Tom Platty started talking in July about the different mini courses that he wanted to offer to the staff in order to support that district goal. And so we moved forward, and we're very pleased to have a variety, a lot of technology, different offerings, and some specialized special ed and EL 15 PDPs in order for the recertification to be addressed as well. The one last thing is that we also are continuing, we've had, I don't think I included it, we've had Journeys training for the staff within the last month, and then Go Math. Though this is our second year of implementation, we have new staff members that had not had that initial training. So we had a full day of training for Go Math for all the new staff members, and that was about 14 people. Also gave the opportunity for the a little one-on-one time for the math specialist to have targeted questions that are coming from their buildings. So it was a good opportunity for everyone. Within the next couple of weeks, foundation coaching will start at Rich's School as well. So, questions?
Any questions? Mrs. Bodenhedger?
Is there any way that the Google 101 could be made available to people like myself who are really confused?
I'm sure that Tom
I mean,
Platty would be thrilled.
Tom would love to do
To
that.
do some sort of
Did we
mini.
do that a few years ago? No, or try, when the iPads came out?
We sat with the IT department just to walk us through what the not how to use them so much, just what the different things were that they were putting on. But it wasn't really a training, and
Well,
I could really use it personally. I can't
thinking-
speak for the rest of my.
I keep on thinking of the quote from the students when we were looking for Tom Platty, who the technology director, was the students were saying that they're living in the Google environment and we're living in an office environment.
Right.
And so, yes, as much as we can learn about it, we need to.
Yeah, so, I mean,
We can
maybe
work with you
talk
on dates. Sure. See
That'd be
who's
great.
interested.
Does anyone else? Yeah, okay. Great,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm looking around the room, and you notice some posters. Okay, we had a new teacher class meeting. Mary and I work with new teacher class every month. It's a course for teachers in their second year. So one of the activities they had to do was come together and draw their, whatever the word was. So get a chance to look around and see their work, see what they care about. I think you'll find it interesting. Today, we was very busy, and so I just want to thank the custodians for set up, all of our teachers who presented, the technology department, the work they did to make sure that everything happened. I want to thank all the folks that worked this afternoon as well. So it was a very busy day, and I think people went home tired. They worked hard. I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about the STEM Summit that Maureen had mentioned earlier, the CPC partnership, and the STEM Leadership Steering Committee that I went to. So when I went to the STEM, I took away four things really. That's what I want to share with you. I don't want to be redundant. So one of the sessions I went to was how to prepare students when they graduate, much like we're doing in Marlborough High School. So Boston College and Bay State Community are working with local high schools. So some of the things that they're doing are pretty intriguing. So I'm going to share that with Dan Riley when I see him tomorrow morning. Second session I went to, fascinating 3D digital video that WGB is doing, Channel 2, PBS, great work. And that's being available. The amazing things with the panel were, as Maureen said earlier, kindergarten, first grade, second grade teachers. They're using video and digital imagery to really help students who normally wouldn't see that kind of work. Third session I went to was a panel of people from various industries. So got a chance to learn about the soft skills that our students need when they graduate high school. When I think of it, I don't think it's anything new. It just reinforces relationships is still in. Okay, when we think about technology, it's all about relationships, working together, problem solving, being able to be articulate, write well, read well, communicate well. Those skills, soft skills, are very important today. The last session I went to, I visited the vendor fair, and I ran into a very young gentleman, senior at the high school, and he was the, let's see if I get this right, 2016 Massachusetts State Science and Engineering Fair champion. His name is Nicholas Buckley, fine young man, and he gave an explanation of the power of the iron engine. There's no way I could tell you anything about it, but it was impressive. The Metro West College Planning Center is a center that what it does, it works with young adults to help them prepare for college or get ready for college. So Marlborough High School will be partnering with CPC, and they will provide a guidance staff to offer additional support and resources a few hours per week. So I want to thank Sharon Buckley and Charlie Caleri for that. Lastly, I went to the STEM Leadership Steering Committee, and a couple of things that I walked away with from that meeting. One, the observational internships at Raytheon were terrific. I think the folks at Raytheon could not say enough about our students as well as what the employees got out of that. We had a gentleman from Dow Chemical talk about the community project work experience and the kind of work that they presented and had for our students. Two more things. We had a lot of people from the community work on a toolkit, and that will help with our partnership. We have a lot of, as a mayor, you know, you serve on that committee. A lot of, we're very fortunate to have members of the community serving on that steering committee. Lastly, Dan Riley made a presentation about the work that's going on at the high school, and as always, he represents our community so well, and he did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank
questions
you.
from the committee? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public participation. Any public participation? Public participation. Seeing none. High school schedule pilot program.
We'd like to bring up Principal Caleri, who's provided you with an already outdated document because it's been tweaked even a little bit. And I said, don't worry about the few minutes around lunch because this is sort of a high-level view. I know we'll have a chance to ask some questions, but I'm sure he has those anyway ready if people would like to see them. So I'm going to turn this over to Principal Caleri and hear about the goals and the work that this committee has done.
First. Perfect. Thanks, Maureen. Thank you, everyone. Important news first, 2-0.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome. The
2-0.
girls are up, winning right now at the half. Girls soccer team is beating North Middlesex, 2-0.
That's
So
great.
Thank you.
it's good news. So thank you for allowing me to come this evening to kind of share a little piece of a pilot. Last year, when I had first started, as part of my analysis of the work that we had done and conversations I had with folks in and around the school and associated with the school, as part of my entry, there were a lot of conversations and pieces that came up relative to the schedule as being a concern, relative to time on learning, instructional time, interventions during the school day, and issues that were, with ELB and some other things, advisory and such. So we formed a series of faculty committees, one of which was dedicated to exploring the schedule. That group was co-chaired by Heather Kahn and Sharon Buckley. And that group had met for about 6 months, the better part of half of a school year last year, and some additional meetings toward the end of the school year. Sharon and Heather graciously offered to come here tonight to present this, to which I said, I would love for you to come, but I would really love for you to come when we present a final version. So I said, for tonight, I'll be happy to present the pilot on your behalf, and then answer some preliminary questions, and then invite them back at a later time, maybe in late winter, early spring, when we talk about kind of adopting a new version of schedule moving into the next school year. As part of the work that they and the committee had done a great deal of research into different schedules that would meet some specific areas that we had targeted. One was better meeting the time on learning requirement. Two was trying to find a way to embed block periods, because we currently have block days. But we were trying to take some of those block periods and embed them and sprinkle them through the schedule to provide some degree of a rotating schedule and also some interventions during the school day. So we're trying to increase the length of our classes. So to do that, that would create kind of a drop of a period. We also discovered and recognized that we had a number of homeroom periods. We had one every day, which was taking away a little bit of our time on learning. So we tried to shift that time that was there embedded in a homeroom and find a better way to use it. And so from that group and their work and research into other places, a version of this was developed. Actually, 2 different pieces were solidified. That group presented to our leadership team, comprised of assistant principals, principal, coordinators, supervisors, teacher leaders, and such, to discuss and debrief on this. We provided feedback to the committee. The committee went back to work. They did some more tweaking of the schedule. I had joined the committee at that point to kind of provide a little bit more insight and ideas. And then from there, that brought us about to the end of the school year, at which point we shared with the faculty. One of the discussions that we had in the committee was that we were going to do a pilot of a schedule. just to kind of get a sense of what some of the issues might be when we go to kind of a full adoption of a new schedule. And so that's why we're here. The end of the school year last year, told all the faculty, we're going to do a pilot. We'll likely look for a period of time that is an uninterrupted time of 4 consecutive weeks. And what we found is the best time to do that would be the break between Thanksgiving, so when students return from Thanksgiving, to the time before they leave for winter break. It puts it in the square middle point of second quarter. It doesn't impact beginning of semester. Typically there aren't snow days in November and December, so we won't have, we hope that we, I know, I didn't bring my farmer's almanac with me, but I don't really want to look at it anyway. So the hope is that we'll have an uninterrupted period of time where we can kind of see what the impact of implementing a new idea, our concept for a schedule would be, and then collect some feedback from all the stakeholders that are involved, including students, staff, and administrators. So the intention is to implement this post-Thanksgiving. We have a couple little things that we have to do. We had a meeting with, I met with union representatives from the building. I've had conversations with union folks as well from the MEA, and we've also kind of shared this with the faculty. Our next phase in the process is to bring the notion of the pilot to you all to let you know where we stood, and then also to bring this to the kids and kind of share with them what the changes are going to be for a 4-week period of time. So to that end, I don't want to go into too many details of all the specifics, but I wanted to give you kind of a big picture overview of the work that's been taking place over the past year or so to kind of address this and what our plans are moving forward. So to that end, I'll be happy to take some questions.
Questions from the committee? Okay.
She's got a list, just to warn you. I just had a quick question about what is the plan to notify students and parents about the pilot schedule?
We had met today before professional development to go through a lot of the questions that came out of the faculty conversation, because we wanted to make sure that before we shared this with the students, we wanted to make sure that we answered all those questions first to make sure that there weren't any errors.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the next portion of that is we're going to share it with kids. I think our goal is next Tuesday is what we decided on during an extended homeroom, and then to put that out to the parents in that same span of time to kind of share, hey, we're doing this pilot. It's not going to be a major change, all things considered, given that the schedule is not completely rotating, and there are some limitations to having a completely rotating schedule during the pilot. So that's where we are.
So will you send an email to parents, or will there be a phone call, like one of your automated calls?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
and the other thing is students already know.
Yes.
About the schedule.
Students may have. I was approached by some students as well that they mentioned,
Okay.
what about this new schedule? And I said, just calm down.
It's leaked out.
Yes, of course. And sometimes that happens, and we'll get them with all the right information that they need to have. Ms. Matthews?
Yep.
I also have Catherine's questions. She sent us some questions.
It's
but
the chair, isn't it? It's that
It's the
place
chair. It is
right
the
there.
chair. It's the chair.
I'm burning that chair.
So thank you for coming. I know we've had conversations regarding the schedule. My first question, and the questions I have are not in any particular order except for my first one, which is what I was hoping to hear was really more about the goal of what the changes were. Mm-hmm. You stated better time on learning, embedded block periods, rotating schedules, and having intervention within the schedule. And so I went back to your school improvement plan to try and figure out what your goals were when you put it together last year. Mm-hmm. And you didn't ever have any of those in your goals. Time on learning was an issue, but having common planning time, which I think is one of the things we've all been talking about, and a proven area is our extended learning blocks that we've had and proven through PBLs that it works. And it works in the STEM environment. And you did talk about expanding that actually in the 9th grade teaming. But this pilot schedule does not look to go in that direction. You've eliminated those opportunities for PBLs in that schedule.
I don't think so, but okay.
Well, okay, then I guess to tag on to that, where do you see the PBLs falling into this?
Into Panther period.
Okay, so Panther period,
Yep.
based on what you sent us in the notes, calls for it to be enrichment, intervention, assembly, etc., without borrowing from class time. PBLs are a graded, or not graded, they're accredited period for STEM. What happens to the kids who are in PBL, STEM, that now can't participate in all those things that you're highlighting Panther for?
Reasonable question. I think the piece that my short answer is we still have some conversations to take place about the nature of ELB and Panther and the structure and how we're going to use Panther. So right now, for the pilot, we're looking at it as intervention and enrichment to kind of get a flavor of it. We have other ideas for how to kind of expand the use of Panther, which would also include some of these pieces that you're referring to relative to ELB and the supports for STEM for project-based learning. So it's still a conversation that we still need to have. Relative to the first part of your question about common planning time, this year, within the schedule construct that we already have, we've implemented kind of a pilot version of common planning time within the schedule for about, not quite half, but I'd say all of our core content area teachers, we've managed to get common planning time into the structure of the schedule. So, which is why you don't see on this a kind of formal common planning time period, because we think that we can implement it into the schedule through
Well, that's
rotation.
my follow-up question to that is, does this encourage that goal of finding more common planning time? You're talking about you're at 50% now. Is one of the underlying goals in here to
get
hit
there.
100%?
Absolutely.
And you think you
Absolutely.
can achieve it with
I
this
think
schedule?
we'll get close. The true way to achieve it is to have a staggered opening every week, or an early release opening every week, to make sure that I can get it for 100% of my staff. I'm not coming to you with a pilot schedule to say, that's what I want. I'm coming right now to say, we're working on a pilot to kind of figure out, because ultimately the target of this is to address time on learning and intervention opportunities for kids during the school day. And that was a pretty significant piece of the school improvement plan as well.
Well, and you bring up the intervention within the school day. And I guess one of my concerns is at high school level, we're no longer homogeneous. We're in CP, we're in honors, we're in AP. We're putting kids where we believe they should be. When they need additional support, we have homework club, we have other things to do for them. Study halls we've tried to eliminate. Obviously there is a need for, in some cases, for different schedules for kids and so on and so forth. But is there really that additional need to now put, there's only so many minutes in a day. And to now say we're going to put an additional intervention time, more of the model of the middle school or more of the model even in the elementary schools, which is where we've gotten away from when you get to the high school. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how that reaches the goal on when you have limited minutes.
We find that the needs of our students for intervention purposes are pretty significant, which is to say that we need to make sure that we're providing them with enough time to access the content that they have. So our kids that are struggling, we have to kind of find a way within our schedule to give them, as the saying would be, kind of an extra scoop of something. So if that is additional math support, additional English support, additional science support, additional language support, and also give students kind of an opportunity to kind of branch out and extend. A lot of our kids are taxed in terms of their times, both before school and after school, in terms of their availability as well. And that is finding it's with our changing demographics in our population, we're finding it also difficult to meet to have all of the students access all of the time that they need during the span of the school day. So we're trying to find ways to create more opportunities for more kids. Which was the original construct of ELB, based on the conversations that I had before with folks from a historical perspective, had shared with some of the use of ELB was meant for that. But unfortunately,
Yes.
it hasn't been able to be used quite as effectively as we would like for that purpose. And so this is a way of making that a bit more accessible to more kids and frankly to more teachers.
I guess, and again, as I said, as I was reading things and doing things, no particular order on this. One concern, well, I know, I looked over your shoulder, I did see. The lack of homeroom. I get that there's a lot of time at the beginning of the day. But when we talk about, and we go to these conferences that talk so heavily about social and emotional learning, that historically has been the one constant a student may have in the 4 years of their life. And you've now eliminated that to twice in a 4-week period. And you also have no advisory in this, which we spent a lot of time and a lot of money developing. And I'm wondering how we gain those connections, even in an extended homeroom, twice a week or twice a month. Just doesn't seem like we're gonna get our bang for our buck by not having a child seeing that constant person who may develop some type of relationship with that child. We're now taking it away.
I think with our emphasis, well, twofold. One, with our emphasis on building relationships with all of our kids during our regular class time is one piece that we've put a great degree of emphasis on with our staff. The second piece is with this extended homeroom that essentially becomes the advisory that you're referring to. So that is the home base for these kids that would keep them for the 4-year period. So allow them to establish a relationship with staff through this model, which is roughly the same as what the advisory blocks were in the past.
That's a change to the advisory blocks as far as the
Not
participation
significantly.
of which teacher it is.
Well, this would actually provide more opportunities for more staff to be involved in advisory.
Correct.
And that's the intent. So the members of this committee signed up for this committee to work on this were people who were very much interested in the schedule and very much interested in advisory and in ELB. So all of those folks who are coming together to kind of talk about this, that's what the conversations are about.
Well, you bring up another point. Did you ever have students at the table in the conversation?
In the construction of the pilot? No. Nope.
Can I ask why?
It was more, there was no particular reason. It wasn't an oversight. It was more for a faculty committee to get kind of input into the structure, knowing full well that the kids are going to be very flexible when it comes to kind of implementing some of these things.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why we're going to share the information with them and then collect feedback from them to get their input. But we had to start with something.
On the time on learning, when I was going through the periods that you have set up, I mean, we're averaging, well, our current periods are 48 or 49-minute periods. And your schedule is anywhere from 42 to 56. Most of the time it's 46. I know teachers like to be at, I'm sorry, I take that back. Most of the time it's at 40, where is it? Yeah, 46. I mean, I've heard from teachers that when you get closer to the 44 to 46, it actually makes a difference between the 48 and the 50. And so I just kind of, I was surprised that you didn't decrease passing time. We have 4 minutes. That's a lot of time. And in most cases, I think 3 minutes is probably, as long, I mean, if the kid's not taking 10 minutes to get to class. And we talked about it when we were doing negotiations as far as passing time. And in some areas, especially like middle school is a perfect example, you might only be moving from one room to another, literally hallway, door to door. And yes, obviously, if you're going from the art wing to the math wing, it's going to take a little bit more. But you gain a substantial amount of time. I mean, 7 minutes a day is a lot of time when you decrease that. And that's usually it sounds stupid, but it's the first thing you can pull out of it, just like you can pull 5 to 10 minutes out of homeroom in the morning. So I was surprised to see the decrease, because you made the comment about fewer passing times on certain days, and the only time, quite honestly, was one difference in 2 rotations that I saw. So I didn't really see how that impacted. It was either 7 or 8, depending on the day. You still have to go to lunch. And on speaking on lunch, 10:08. I just, that my own personal opinion is feeding kids at 10 o'clock in the morning is,
But we feed kids at 6:50 in the morning already.
that's breakfast.
Right. And so the amount of time, the 10:08 is actually pretty close to halfway in the middle of the day. But again, this is a pilot, and the intention, because a lot of folks had questions and comments about the lunchtime, the question that came up was, is this where we intended it to be? To which our answer was, no. We actually intended lunch to be later. We intended our lunch, the block period that we inserted into the day, we intended that to be the 3rd period of the day instead of the 4th. Unfortunately for the pilot, because when you try to do something in the middle of the school year, it doesn't work out so easily, because you're trying to accommodate all of the schedules that exist for all the people that are in the building. And so to make it work, this is where it's going to be for the 4-week time period. Relative to the passing time comment, the amount of time that is available for students to make it from one end of the building to the another is pretty close to right. So in terms of shortening it to another minute, I don't know that would make that much of a difference. I get it in terms of your point with increasing time on learning, but the majority of the time that the kids are in the schedule, of these 10 days that are on this list, 7 of them have 56-minute period days. So the length of time that kids are going to be in class and getting instruction is actually increased. And so if we magnify that out to a 180-day calendar, that's where you see the numbers on the bottom that show that, and that's where there might be a slight change between the document that I have and the one that you have. But the proposed schedule, if we accepted it in its current state, it would be 1,008 hours. Whereas currently, it's 955. So we've actually added time on learning. We've added instructional time with the equivalent of an extra 4-ish hours per class per year, which I think is a pretty significant increase.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you on that. I think our goal when you and I first talked after we had completed negotiations was even to be a little bit higher than that, because you have not accounted for your delayed starts.
No, it actually is factored in.
Well, I did the multiplication too, and an example like this week and last week when you have MCAS retests, it's not the entire population, but you gotta account for it somewhere. Because you're losing you're losing a bunch of kids.
But I'm happy to have this conversation,
Yeah,
but it doesn't
separately.
necessarily fit to the
But,
pilot.
One of the other, I guess, one of the highlights of conversations that we've had over the last couple of years and the changes of everything was music, health, the arts. Does this pilot schedule help or hinder those who want those additional opportunities?
Neither. It wouldn't necessarily provide them with additional opportunities at this point, and it wouldn't provide them with any fewer.
Okay. Because I know that is a concern.
Because I know that there were a lot of questions relative to, and I don't really want to get into this because it doesn't factor into the pilot, so I want to stay on the 4 piece. But a lot of questions that came up were about whether or not we could actually do an 8-period day. And provide,
we used to have an 8-period
right.
day, correct.
And the conversations I had with staff about the 8-period day were always, well, that was when 8th grade was in the building. And when you have 8th grade in the building, you have more staff in the building. When you have more staff in the building, you have more periods that you can schedule. When you have more periods you can schedule, you can provide more periods in the schedule. So when you remove the 8th grade and you remove, I'm not saying please bring the 8th grade back, but.
No, it's okay.
Right.
It's not happening.
So, but I think that some of the things that you have to consider is that adding an 8-period day, you would need additional staff members in order to support that, and pretty significant, in fact.
One additional question, I guess. One of the things that I just picked, I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or not, but if I'm a teacher who's teaching 2 sections of the same class, and let's say I have them A and F, if I have a block period with that A on third day, and I don't have a block period with that F class until the 10th day, how is that going to affect my pacing, teaching, instruction, as well as implementation of assessments, as the ability to kids helping kids who happen to, whether they're not in the same class, but they're in the same section. I guess that is a concern of mine, because you're not keeping even. How do you keep even? I mean, not that they're going to be exactly even day to day,
understand.
but.
And that's a question we put to our teachers too, is to kind of figure out ways that they can make that work. Because there's no simple answer. Essentially what we do is we adapt to what the schedule provides us, and we kind of work to incorporate it.
Right. I guess it's more of, is it is it a positive movement, or is it adding additional work where it may not be necessary versus, is the outcome going to be better than the?
I think it will be, actually, because what we're finding is with the block period structure as it is now, with the length of time we're running 4 blocks, is that we find that a lot of our teachers and our kids are pretty wiped by the end of a block day, just because of the sheer length of each of the periods. And so what we're finding is that by moving that to different locations, we'll actually get more lively conversation and discussion. So shifting some of those, perhaps you might have something formally planned for an 85-minute period. Well, can we do that over 2 classes the other time, and then structure something for the block period when we meet them later to accommodate some of the pacing? So I've seen that work in plenty of other schools in terms of adjusting and moving to things, and I know that our teachers will be able to work with that as well as our students. But this is, again, why we're looking at this as a pilot, so that we can get some feedback from it.
I guess maybe I'm a little hung up on the idea of a pilot, in that you're going to be taking a period of time, a 4-week period of time, and possibly creating something that may not even have the same look 3 months down the road.
But the last thing that we want to end up with is a schedule that we come up with on paper, and then schedule over the summer and implement the first day of school, and then say, all right, we're going to run with it, and then have to constantly be making it work the entire year. And I've seen that happen too many times, where it makes more sense, as the scientist in me kind of wins most of the time, is that we try to kind of get enough information so that we can be prepared to implement with fidelity when we decide to implement.
Okay. Michelle, did I miss anything on?
I don't, the Panther use.
Looks pretty good.
I covered mine. I'm just double checking on Catherine's question. I mean,
think
we
you
both
pretty
had the
much
question
covered it.
about how will lunches be assigned, but again, it's a pilot, and I don't know if I guess in a cascading schedule on the way our high school is now,
Yep.
and if I'm 4th period, I'm in math, and I know I go to first lunch. If tomorrow it's English, am I first lunch or am I second lunch? Because that's not going to define, it's going to be different.
For the kid.
For the kid.
Yeah, of course. But that schedule already exists. Lunches are already broken out by department,
Location.
one, and location of the building.
But I'm saying.
Let me
okay,
explain.
Yeah.
And since we have 2 periods in our schedule that have lunches, E period and D period, because on one of our block days, D is a lunch, and on the other days, E is our lunch. So it's already happening on 2 of our periods. So now we're going to ask kids to do it on multiple periods. They're already going to know. It's going to take some getting used to, which is part of the reason why we're going to ask students to kind of write it down on their schedule when we go through the process. And there'll be a little bit of growing pains. That'll happen, of course. But I'd rather learn that now and not learn that in August when we implement something new to start the year.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
Can I jump in with a?
Sure.
We have a real live student here. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Susan, but just let's start with an easy one. 3 or 4 minute passing time. You've been in every corner of the school.
Especially like in the music department, we never take the class on time, even with 4 minutes. Like one class now, we just like get our instruments away.
Well, that's
Also doesn't let you put your stuff away before the bell.
Also, like, teachers don't want you to go to the bathroom during lunch, so you try and go in, or like during their class. So you go like in between and you like sprint into class just to make sure you make it. So sometimes that 1 minute can be crucial.
I can talk loud. Yeah, so that's just.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, why don't you stick around there? Announcement of the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients.
Oh, I didn't bring my list with me.
I do have it, so
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to just set the table here a little bit. In the previous years, we've invited students here, and of the 70 or 80 recipients, we've had 4 or 5, so it has been a little awkward. So we decided this year, the high school recognized them formally in a school assembly, and Principal Cleary is going to read the names this year rather than go through that. Is she here? Is he here? So here's your page, Mike.
It's a good practice for graduation.
What's that? It's good
practice.
Yes, absolutely. We had done something similar last year and the year before.
Yeah.
I was only here for last year, but the year before we did something similar as well. We're basically recognizing students that performed in advanced in at least one of the 3 competency determinations for MCAS, so ELA, math, and science, and they have to be proficient in the 2 others. So we had a number of students that...
And don't they have to be the top 25% of those kids?
Yes, yes.
So there are some students who may still have gotten advanced, but don't make the cut because it's the top 25%.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for including that. So we had an assembly. We sent kind of a reasonably innocuous and vague letter to all of our student recipients that said that you are required to attend a meeting. And they all were abuzz about, why am I going to a meeting? What do I need to have a meeting for? What's the problem? And so I was at the middle school at the time, so I actually had the assistant principals kind of facilitate the meeting and the counselors. To recognize all the kids. It was a bit of a surprise for a number of them, which was good. A good surprise, pleasant surprise. So it's my pleasure to announce our Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients, John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients: Matthew Allen, Justin Bartlett, Jillian Bates, Justin Binkowitz, Joao Borges, Victoria Brettenfield, Julia Brooks, Nicholas Buckley, Amanda Cameron, Kendra Caputo, Claire Cargill, Sophia Chrysanthopoulos, Kaylee Cote, Sabrina Das, Cameron Fanelli, Molly Farrell, Erin Juneau, Kimberly Konar, Mariana Katsifakis Henriquez, Brandon Carina, Olivia Larson, Kenny Lee, Robert Lee, Emma Lincoln, Patain Lor Farias, Michael Lopez Rivera, Ryan McGlashing, Julie Machado, Jennifer Marino, Hannah McCarthy, Patrick McCarthy, Quinn McSweeney, Nicholas Melanson, Samantha Merrill, Andre Mores, Eric Mulvaney, John Noam, Nicholas Oliveira, Reagan Parker, Carolina Pereira, Jillian Petrie, Trevor Poore, Christopher Povell, Susan Rambridge, Megan Sari, Sarah Sather, Jeffrey Schmidt, Elisa Sherman, Casey Seibel, Charlotte Simmons, Abigail Scarin, Elizabeth Smith, Jennifer Souza, Ariana Sparagis, Nathaniel Stemple, Mary Stewart, Megan Taylor, Olivia Tobin, Alexander Trin, Alec Turner, Kayla Usaferi, Kevin Uleman, Nicholas Vassiliadis, Ryan Vermilia, and Dylan White. So we had a nice little photo opportunity for those students as well. Congratulations to them, to their families, and thank you for giving me the chance to recognize them here this evening.
Congratulations, Susan. And I believe we had a total of 65 recipients this year.
Yes.
Great. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Donations and gifts. Wegmans, Jarrick Title I Bilingual Family Night, $200.
Motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to accept. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Home Depot, Richard Kane Jarrick Music Classes, $207.90.
Motion to accept, sorry.
Motion to accept. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Bang those drums. Reports of committees. Any reports of committees? None. Members forum. Members forum. Ms. Matthews.
I know this is coming up under yours to discuss, but Mr. Bergeron and I met tonight to discuss the warrant, as I've been charged with reviewing, which I did. But I would like to add this as a agenda item going forward, as a regular standing agenda item, that it just be brought up as a review of warrant, as if anybody has any opposition or suggestion. That way it's there and we don't have to wait till this. But we reviewed it and I got my questions answered. And again, if anybody else has questions beforehand, send them my way. And I did sign as well.
Any other members? Mrs. Bowden-Hedinger.
Okay, so I have a few things tonight. Update from the MASS conference. You will remember that we had 4 resolutions before us that we voted on. And just to remind everyone, the first one was about the foundation budget. Second one was about tax reform. Third was charter school reform. And the fourth was about social emotional well-being of students.
Mr. Walter, we didn't do too well down there.
You did not. All 4 of them passed. The first one on the foundation budget was unanimous. The other 3, the tax reform one that you had issues with, only passed 67 to 41. So there was quite.
Stands for close in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, so, no, there was good, and there were good conversations, a lot of back and forth. And amendments, and for the most part, just wordsmithing. There were no major changes to the policies. But all 4 of those resolutions were successful. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on the things that we did at the conference, but we all of us made it except for our father-to-be, who's still waiting. You know, we kind of try to split up the sessions that we go to. I went to a bunch of really great ones. 2 that really stuck out a lot was both about evaluation. Actually, 3 that were sort of about evaluation. One evaluating the superintendent, one about self-evaluation, which we've done in the past, and you know, have some ideas on how to move forward with that again. And the third one, I know Rupal and a couple of us are on the evaluation committee. It was about student feedback. So some interesting information on student feedback as well. And then we have 2 issues, personnel type issues. One is about our new administrative assistant and how we are going to operate, I guess, is, you know, I think there's going to be some things that are obvious, like the note-taking at minute-taking, at meetings. But kind of logistically how things are going to operate. Previously, if people wanted to talk about stuff to put on the agenda per se, they sometimes would go to Patty. Now, are folks going to go to Julie? I mean, I guess my question is how should we proceed? And the other thing is, to have 7 supervisors is a little daunting. Questioning whether or not it makes sense to have the secretary be the point person or someone else be the point person, just so Mrs. Purcell is not inundated with 7 people talking at her at once. Thoughts?
Let's format some stuff and maybe bring it to the next meeting. And I agree with you. 7 people throwing things on there is a problem. But we can figure it out. It's a good thing.
It is a good
Oh, it's a great
And we're going to
thing.
get more access than we did with Melissa. It's going to be more involved, so this will be real good.
Okay. So if people have ideas, should we forward them to someone?
Forward them to me.
Forward them to you. Okay. Fair enough. And then the last item, you took it away.
Yep. I didn't know you had to read it.
Well, if I have to read it,
You
I need
want
it.
to? You would like? Yeah, absolutely.
Do I need to read it?
You don't need to read it.
So what it is a press release that will go out. Oh, did we already vote?
Well, we voted as committee to enter into negotiations.
We did that already?
Yeah. We didn't vote out here. But
Ah.
we voted in executive session
Okay.
to enter into negotiations.
So we don't have to vote again?
No.
Okay. So, in executive session, we voted to enter into negotiations with Maureen Grulich to extend the contract and make her not the interim, so we can get that nameplate changed.
Done.
Oh, done, good, phew. So it's a press release, which I will read. Today, during regular session of the Marlborough School Committee, the committee voted unanimously to authorize Chairman Arthur G. Vigent to enter into negotiations with Superintendent Maureen Grulich for the purposes of a 2-year contract extension. Grulich has served as interim superintendent since July 2016, when former Superintendent Richard Langlois left Marlborough Public Schools after 3 years to become superintendent in Windham, New Hampshire. Mayor Arthur Vigent will meet soon with Mrs. Grulich to finalize the details to appoint her as the permanent superintendent of Marlborough Public Schools. Mayor Vigent, chairman of the Marlborough School Committee, said, quote, "It is important for Marlborough Public Schools to maintain consistency and leadership. By extending Superintendent Grulich's contract, we will maintain the same structure and direction that has led to some impressive improvements in recent years. I look forward to working closely with Superintendent Grulich to keep the Marlborough Public Schools moving forward." Vice Chair Michelle Bowden-Hettinger said,
Don't
Do
misquote yourself.
do I need to quote if I'm saying it? "Superintendent Grulich has shown us that she has the experience necessary to serve as the permanent superintendent. Her varied background as both a teacher and an administrator has prepared her for this role, and her many years in the district have shown her to be both passionate about and committed to the Marlborough Public Schools. Grulich has been in Marlborough for 23 years, having served as a teacher, coordinator, assistant principal, and central office staff member, working closely with 3 prior superintendents. Currently, there are 35 superintendent vacancies in the state, a number which indicates the rapid turnover of superintendents in districts across Massachusetts. For immediate release.
No, this, I think it's a great opportunity for us as a school committee, for the school district, and for the superintendent. So thank you very much, and I know that Mrs. Matthews and myself will be talking to legal counsel to make sure we get some certain things in the contract and get this moving pretty rapidly. But thank you very much, and
you.
one load off all our backs. So.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to serving. Thank you very much.
Any other members? Mrs. Matthews?
I know she doesn't want to hear it, but I just want to say thank you
Thank
for your temporary stand-in for the last 7 years.
That's a relative term.
Anyone else? Seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
Motion made, seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. Bye now.